Stewardship is one of the fundamental understandings of our faith tradition. And it has to do with believing that everything we have is a gift from God that's been entrusted to our care so that we can use it for our own benefit and for, as Paul says, the common good. The benefit of all those around us, the benefit of the life of the church, for the benefit of the ministry of church. And it's not just about your material possessions or my material possessions. It's about everything God has given us. Everything God has entrusted to us. One thing God has entrusted to us for our own use and for the benefit of others and the common good is our natural world. And in my opinion, quite frankly, we've been doing a pretty poor job of taking care of that. In the 1970s, I actually wrote a paper on Christian environmentalism when I was in college, and I read an article by a gentleman named Whitehead, who I think at the time was an ordained pastor in another denomination, but he blamed Christianity for the current economic crisis in the 70s because we had this idea of subdue and dominion. We misinterpreted what that was all about, and so we had this reckless abandon to take the earth and do whatever we wanted to do it with no thought for future generations or the health of the planet or the health of the people who live on the planet. Now, I know that's controversial, but I'm just throwing that out there. But God has also given us all material possessions, which we'll talk about later. But the one I want to talk about today is this. According to Paul, God, through the Spirit, has given each and every one of us gifts, graces, skills, and ability. They're gifts from God through the Spirit, and each one of us has a unique gift that's especially for us to hold in trust, to use for our own benefit, for the benefit of the church, and for the benefit of those around us. This church is full of people with gifts. I've got a tech team between Kathy and Bill and Tim and Crystal and Ryan that's beyond belief. They're gifted and they're skilled. I have these people over here who have the gift of music, who can play and can sing. We have a gifted group of trustees. I can't begin to tell you the thousands of dollars that some of our trustees have saved us because rather than calling a contractor to come in and fix something, they've dug into it, figured it out, and fixed it. Some of you have the gift of healing. That doesn't mean you go, Satan, come out! It means you're willing to listen to somebody when they're hurting so that they can heal. We're blessed with a whole group of teachers and retired teachers, and if we ever get more kids and have more Sunday schools, guess who I'm going to be calling on? We're wanting to start an after-school program, really small, and Rosie's working on it. But we're going to need people to come and mentor these kids for a few hours, 4 days a week, to feed them, to make friends with them, to help them with their homework. And the skill set is here. Some people have the gift of service. Some people are gifted to be pastors. We have 2 retired pastors in this church that are incredibly gifted. And I appreciate it when they take over the pulpit for me when I'm not here. Flash, just the act and service of making sandwiches and food to feed people who struggle with food security is a gift that God has entrusted to some of you that we can use. Our new treasurer, Sheila, has never had an accounting class that I'm aware of, but she is so detailed in her bookkeeping that I think she must stay awake at night trying to account for every penny. But we have records now that are like, oh my gosh. We have people that are gifted at service for the Tempest Fund when there's funerals, for the breakfast that you used to do. You're good at putting together meals and ideas. And here's the thing. We're supposed to be using those gifts and graces. When we took our vows of United Methodists, we vowed to support the church with our gifts, our graces, our talents, and our wealth. And a lot of us are either still waiting for the opportunity or waiting to be asked or whatever. Here's the interesting thing in the Corinthian church, though, and why Paul addresses gifts on numerous occasions in the two epistles, is they used it, that they were so into gifts that it became a game. There was a hierarchy of gifts, and if you had a certain gift, you were better than everybody else that had the lower gift. And the one they all loved the most was the speaking in tongues. And we don't really know what that meant. There's a lot of theories on that, but whatever it was, for whatever reason, the early church thought that was the best gift to have. And if you could speak in tongues, and if you could interpret tongues, then you were heads and shoulders above the rest. And it's interesting that in every time Paul addresses the gifts, the charismata, he lists it last, as least important. Because he's trying to tell the Corinthians that you're all important. All of your gifts are needed. All of them are given to you through the Spirit by God to be used for the common good, which is your good, the church's good, and the world's good. What is your gift? Some leaders are born and some learn it. Some people are gifted builders or artists, and some have to be learned. But we all have skills and abilities that God has placed in our trust as stewards that He expects for us to use together for the common good. What's your gift? You go, oh, I don't know. Yeah. What is it you like most? What are you interested in? What have you done for a living? What are you good at? That's your gift. That's your grace. And that's how you can help this church and your community. And I don't care whether you volunteer to clean toilets or you volunteer to do pulpit fill. Each and every gift and grace is equally as important to the function of this church and for the common good of this community. Now, Paul goes on later in this same chapter to, maybe it's the next chapter, the same chapter, to use the metaphor of the body of Christ, that the church is the body, and we all are a different part of the body, right? When I was guiding out west, we used to get the kids around in a circle. They were court-referred youth and sometimes church youth groups, which are even worse than the court-referred youth. And we'd ask them, so we'd do this with, what part of the body are you? And one of my fellow guides who was kind of ornery goes, I'm a hemorrhoid. I'd go, why? Because everybody knows I'm here, but I might be a pain in the... All of us, because of our gifts, skills, and abilities, are a part of this body. And Paul goes on to say, if the foot says, I don't want to be the foot, I want to be the ear, then the whole body suffers. If the ear says, I'm not going to be the ear, I want to be the nose, then the whole body suffers. Have you ever broken your foot or sprained your ankle and you limp around for 2 or 3 weeks and pretty soon your knee hurts and your hip hurts and your back hurts, all because your foot wouldn't function like it was meant to? That's exactly what happens to the church. If anybody with their gifts and graces refuses to function with the graces and gifts that God has given them, you cripple the church's impact. You cripple the church's mission. Everybody, I don't care how old, how young, how smart, or how not smart, I'm trying to find a pleasant word to say that. Don't care who you are, retired or active, you have gifts and skills that God needs you to exercise in this church, to put to use, to be good stewards of. so that we're a complete body that's functioning properly. So the part of the body doesn't have to adapt because one part of the body's not working right. We all have something to contribute. When I was working with at-risk kids and I had my business doing that, we used to take a group of kids out to Colorado for a 10-day trip in the Sangre de Cristos, and all summer long they had to go to these other weekend camps so we could train them. And if you've ever dealt with troubled kids, you know that because of what they've been through, they're very about me. It's about protecting myself. I don't care about you, it's all about me. And so we go on these 12-day trips. The first 2 or 3 days were just constant fights and arguments. You know, we'd have cook groups and tent groups, and you had to work together if you wanted to eat. You had to work together if you wanted to survive in the tent together. If you wanted to get to the destination you were headed that day, you'd better work together with map and compass and leadership skills, or you're going to be walking in circles in the mountains, and we're not going to stop you. But something interesting would happen. We'd give them new skills and new challenges they've never faced before. And that might be nothing more than learning how to cook on a one-burner stove to feed themselves. About the third day, there'd be a change. And each kid would discover that if they're in the cook group, this person was really good at cooking, this person was good at prepping the food, but this person really enjoyed cleaning the dishes afterwards because it gave them a few moments of solitude. In the tent groups, they'd find out that this person was really good at organizing the tent, and this person was good at keeping the tent clean, and that this person would go out each day and make sure the stakes were down well, the tent was in good shape so they could sleep through the night. You would have kids that would just become naturals with map and compass, and they would rise as natural leaders, and the other kids would follow them as leaders. It changed their lives and their world because they became a team. They worked together to accomplish a goal. And that's what we need to be as a church, a team. I can't do it by myself. I need all of you. If you're expecting me to do it by myself, you've made a mistake. Because whenever a church fails or declines or increases, when the church is doing well, everybody wants to take credit, but when it's not doing well, everybody wants to blame the pastor. But guess what? It's a team effort. It's just not my skills and abilities that are in play here. It's all of yours. And one last story, and then we'll get to communion. This story actually is in a book. It's true. I first heard Adam Hamilton tell it. He was a pastor in Kansas City, of the largest United Methodist church in our denomination in this country. And it's true, and it goes like this. There were some young people in a Sunday school class, and their Sunday school teacher was encouraging them to find ways that even they, at their age, could find ways to encourage other people, to find a gift or skill that they could use to contribute to the community at large and to the church. And this young man took it very, very seriously. And he thought, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And then he had this idea, I know, I can write out little blessings, or I can look up blessings on the internet and print them up and cut them up. And he was a bag boy at a local grocery store. And I'll put a blessing in every customer's groceries. So he did it. He found them on the internet. He printed them off. He cut them up. And every shift that he bagged groceries, in one bag there'd be a note. There'd be some form of encouragement to that person who had shopped there that day. And as time went on, people got to notice in what he was doing, the customers, and they would figure out which aisle he was bagging on, and they'd go to that aisle and wait forever in order to get bagged by him so they could receive the blessing he was giving. And one day it got so bad that the manager, you know how they do that on the microphone? Ladies and gentlemen, we've opened 2 more registers for your convenience. Please feel free to move to one of those registers. Nobody moves. He's frustrated. He's like, oh my God, people are going to be complaining for a week about the line. What's going on? Ladies and gentlemen, just once again, we've opened 3 registers now. Please feel free to move to the nearest open register and we can take care of you right away. Nobody moves. Finally, he goes out and he personally invites people to move to the other registers that are open who have idle employees at the cash registers, people waiting to bag, and some lady comes up and goes, I ain't moving. And here's why. I want my blessing from that boy at the end of the line. Oh, and by the way, he had all kinds of emotional and educational issues he was dealing with. If somebody like that can find ways to use their gifts to bless other people, then I have to ask myself, what's holding me back? What's holding you back? This is an amazing thing that God has created for us, where we get to come together as the body of Christ. And yes, it's not a perfect metaphor, I get it. But the idea that we all have something to contribute, and when we're all contributing to the body of Christ, we can make such a huge difference in the lives of the people around us. And I tell you, when you're part of that and you see things happen and see things change, and you have people thank you for giving them food, or thank you for just listening to their problem, or thank you for helping them out financially, it warms your heart in ways that you can't begin to imagine. Every time I took a group of kids from Harrodsburg down to Louisiana to do work at Katrina, they and the adults would come back, and we'd be juiced. We'd be amped for months, because there was something about that experience of helping other people who changed us, who made us joyful about ministry, who engaged us in our faith tradition even deeper. So if you're feeling lost or adrift, bring your skills and abilities to church, and I'll put you to use.